Now starting the recording. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our workshop about waste-wise cities, or let's be wise, waste-wise. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Let's Do It World for giving us the opportunity to engage with you at your conference. And congratulations for everything you have achieved in the past year, and also before, of course, so far. And we are happy to engage with you today. The idea of our workshop is, and maybe we can go on the next slide for that, that my name is Nele Kapp, and I am a waste management expert working at UN Habitat, the United Nations agency working on human settlements and urbanization. And we want to share a bit with you what we are doing in the area of solid waste management. And as you can see here on the agenda, you will hear 4 different presentations. The first one about the Waste-Wise Cities tool, which I will do myself. Then you will hear something about zero waste wards in India from my colleague Swati. Then we talk about reverse vending machines in Lebanon, which will be presented by my colleague Eli. And then we will end with a few insights about the Fukuoka method for dump site rehabilitation from my colleague Barhanu in Ethiopia. And the idea is that we will give you a bit of insights on each of those 4 topics. And then we will have in the second part of the workshop the possibility to discuss in smaller breakout sessions what this means for you, how this might be able for you to engage in, what you can take away from it, and so forth. And we then want to come back for like a open discussion in the end with everyone. So also maybe take back a few, like whatever you will take back out of the small groups. Great. So without further ado, I think we can start. And I will start with explaining a bit about the background. If we go to the next slide. I will start with telling you what Waste-Wise Cities is, which is a program we have at UN Habitat. And then which is looking at enhancing solid waste and resource management in the world cities. And we go further. Waste-Wise Cities was launched in 2018 by our executive director, Madam Mamouna Moucharif, as a call for action to cities and local governments and everyone else to act on the increasing challenge of solid waste management. And if we go on the next slide, we can see what those challenges are. The problem is that 2 billion people around the world are without waste collection and 3 billion without access to controlled waste disposal. And in a business as usual, the waste management sector will actually attribute 8 to 10% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, mostly from open dump sites and unmanaged landfills. If we go on the next slide, we can see why we think that Waste-Wise Cities is necessary. Waste-Wise Cities was, as I said, launched to combat these challenges. And currently we have about 200 member cities all around the world, which are covering more or less over 140 million inhabitants. And you can see the regional distribution of the cities in the pie chart. And we also have started to develop a network of affiliates. Currently, we have about 40, which are because as an agency, we are mostly working with local governments. However, we also think it's very necessary to engage with other stakeholders in the waste management sector. So the affiliates are organizations, private sector, academia, community-based organizations, NGOs who are working in the waste management area and think that and kind of want to promote and also work with us together on Waste-Wise Cities. If we go on the next slide, we can see that we also have a regional chapter, especially for Africa, which is called African Clean Cities Platform, which is has similar goals and objectives, but as I said, is just looking at Africa. On the next slide, we will see the objectives of Waste Cities, which, as I said, was to enhance waste management and resource efficiency in the world cities. And we hope to achieve that by improving municipal solid waste collection and controlled, and that is supposed to be waste management. Then decreased generation of waste, increased recycling of suitable materials, and enhanced management of hazardous waste. The next slide will show you the key principles of Waste Cities that we think are necessary and that actually all the cities and also the affiliates are signing up to. The cities and local governments that have joined us have promoted or committed to those 12 principles, and also our affiliates are asked to support cities and apply in achieving these principles. And as you can see, they are very diverse. We think it's a wide range that you actually have to do to reach sustainable waste management. And the first, it goes from waste data, collecting waste data, all the way to improving collection and transport, to the 5 Rs, which are rethink, refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle, to stakeholder engagement, and so forth. On the next slide, you can see our action areas. We're working on knowledge and good practices sharing, waste data and monitoring, advocacy and education, and project finance and bankability support. And of course, for each of those, we have a number of activities. You can see those on the sites. I now want to highlight one of our action areas, waste data and monitoring, but which is also a bit connected somehow, of course, to all of the other action areas. And that's the Waste Cities tool. So if we go on the next slide, you can see that the Waste Cities tool, which is shortly called WACT, is an assessment and planning tool that you apply to evaluate a city's municipal solid waste management performance. And you can use actually the results for sustainable solid waste management strategy, development, and policy planning. It was developed by UN Habitat in collaboration with a number of international experts based on the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goal Indicator 1161, which is called proportion of municipal solid waste collected and managed in controlled facilities out of total municipal solid waste generated by the city. And on the next slide, you can see what are the 7 steps of the Waste Cities tool. So it starts from, of course, a preparation, but actually like the key parts are a household municipal solid waste generation and composition analysis, followed by a survey on or an analysis of the municipal solid waste generated by anything else but households. So we talk about schools, universities, other institutions, businesses, restaurants, shops, hospitals, but of course only the municipal solid waste part of them, and so forth. Then step 4 looks at the municipal solid waste that is received by recovery facilities and also the control level of those. Because for us, it's very important. We don't only look at how much waste is being collected, but also how it is managed or in what kind of facilities. And this is where the control level comes in, which actually defines if a facility has low control, limited control, basic, improved, or full, and it has like some criteria on how to evaluate it. And the same holds true then in step 5, where we look at the waste received by disposal facilities and also their level of control. Step 6 looks then at the waste composition at disposal facilities to kind of conclude what is already taken out in between households and the disposal facilities. And step 7 is linking the data collected and the results achieved to other indicators, SDG indicators, and also to other relevant information. So you kind of can look at household food waste generation, at the recovery rate in your city, how much plastic is leaked, and also greenhouse gas emissions and air pollution. So those things will be possible after you have collected the primary data. In the next step, or in the next slide, sorry, you can see the result, how it looks like for a city. For example, we applied this in Mombasa in Kenya, which is a coastal city and the 2nd largest city of Kenya. And you can see on the left that that is the waste being generated by households and non-households. And then there's some waste that is being collected and brought to the official disposal sites, which are actually dump sites, which are not controlled. And you can see that some waste is being collected by waste pickers, but also directly brought to private recycling companies. That's in the middle, where you can see that actually 40 tons of waste per day are actually recycled in Mombasa. 12 tons of that are recovered from the dump site. So that's actually waste pickers working at the dump sites. And so you can see they actually contribute to more than 1/4 of the waste being recycled in Mombasa. So that's a huge amount. Of course, also some waste remains uncollected. That's the number you see in the bottom. So even nowadays, still almost 400 tons per day remain uncollected. And as overall indicators, you can now see that about 50% of the waste is being collected, but only 5% is actually managed in controlled facilities, which coincides with the waste being managed in the recycling companies, as the dump sites don't have a basic level of control. And this 5% is actually the number that that could be reported to national statistics offices, and will then go into informing about the SDG indicator 1161 that I mentioned before. And on the next slide, we can see that this is, data is of course good and nice for itself, but it can also be used for something. So the idea is that the waste-based city tool can actually help a city. First, it can find out how much waste is generated, collected, and treated in controlled facilities, as we just saw on the flow chart. However, based on this data, you are then able to establish better waste and resource management strategies. And also this can provide data for larger waste management infrastructure investment cases. And down below, you can see, for example, a standard project preparation stream that we are following. So that you apply the Waste-based Cities tool, you analyze the data, you have a participatory project design through stakeholder workshops, etc. Then you connect to donors to get the projects started, and then you hopefully will see impacts on the ground. And that's basically everything I wanted to tell you for now for the Waste-based Cities tool, and I'm handing over to my next colleague, Swati, who will talk to you about zero waste wards in India. Please, Swati, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Nele. I hope you all can see my slides. Yes. So hello, everyone. Swati this side. I'm joining from UN Habitat India, New Delhi office. And I'll be sharing some case studies on zero waste ward related interventions in India. Why zero waste wards? Basically, the idea is to create holistic zones or wards where waste can be segregated at source, treated at source with minimal rejects. Such sort of interventions require intensive capacity building and sensitization of various stakeholders across the value chain. Such a project also leads to, better infrastructure. And any kind of infrastructure that supports zero waste wards has to ensure end-to-end segregation, which means collection of segregated waste, its segregated transportation and processing, and further sorting into different components. This is also a step towards circularity. Also in informal economies, it leads to better incentives for the informal sector. But also the fact that across global south, such interventions are also like a win-win situation for various stakeholders. Coming to some of the case studies, the first city is Mysuru. It's a million-plus population city, and it generates about 350 tons per day of municipal solid waste. What's special in the city is that there are 64 wards that are further bifurcated into 9 zero waste management zones. So each zone has about 7 to 8 wards. What happens on the ground is that households give their segregated waste. When I talk about segregation at source, I mean that households in Mysuru give waste into wet, dry, and domestic hazardous waste. So it's a 3-bin model that the city has adopted. And this segregated waste then gets collected by workers who are from the municipality. Some of them are supported by the local NGOs in the city. And then it goes to 9 zero waste management zones. And where there is further sorting of this, resource. The wet waste gets composted, and as you can see, after composting, there is a direct linkage with farmers or horticultural department, and the compost gets sold, typically in prices between 40 to 60 rupees per kilo. So the quality of compost is really good. With dry waste, it further gets sorted in the center into 30 different categories. It gets washed, it gets cleaned in these zero waste management units. And then there is linkages with various aggregators and recyclers, and it gets further channelized for processing. So it's sort of a win-win situation for the municipality, because not only they're able to make extra income from the dry waste value chain and the wet waste value chain, but also due to this intervention, the city is sort of the cleanest city in the country, and considering that the size of the city is pretty large, I mean it's a 1 million plus city. I think it's great. UN Habitat is working with Mysuru under various programs and interventions, including solid waste management. The next case study is of Ambikapur. And this city has a very, very, interesting model. It has a women's self-help group that is tied to the municipality. And as you can see in the picture, these 447 women who are a part of the self-help group, they work in order to collect segregated waste from households. Again, in this city, segregation is really good. So the workers go to houses in these manual or battery operated tricycles. They collect segregated waste from households, and then they get it into 18 secondary segregation centers. The city has 47 wards, which is further sort of divided into 18 centers. And in these centers, there is further segregation into 24 different categories. There is composting of biodegradable waste at source, which then further gets sold. And there are listed vendors who in this municipality who purchase the non-biodegradable recyclable dry waste at fair prices, which are also listed in each of these 18 centers. And due to this, the average earning per center is about 0.4 to 0.5 million Indian rupees, and this money is sort of used as income for workers. The workers are paid as salaries so each center is income generating. And in addition, there's also a tertiary segregation center within the city, where items that the secondary centers cannot store, it goes to these centers, and then there is further sorting into 169 different categories. So probably this is the only city in the country where dry waste or dry waste value chain is sorted into not 10, not 20, but over 169 different categories. And they have sort of provided linkage to every component. Again, because of this, the city has zero waste wards, and it's also a zero waste city. They don't have a landfill here, because to them, the policy of the municipality is that they really want to become a zero waste city over the years. So there's very minimal rejects, about 5 to 10%, which is sort of stored in the tertiary center. Third city is Panji, which has a fairly smaller population. It's only about 35,000, but this is a coastal city and it's frequently visited by tourists. And the city again is quite famous for its zero waste ward models. The city generates about 50 tons per day of waste. And very recently, the model of the city earlier was famous because in India, there is 3-point segregation that happens across, but this is the only city that was doing 5-point segregation at source, which means at source, you have to keep 5 different bins for storing your wet waste, and even in dry, there were various components, plastic, paper, hazardous, metal, etc. But now the city has gone to a 16-point segregation model, which is great at source. And the city has a material recovery facility where waste gets sorted into 30 different fractions, and then it gets baled and is sent to recyclers. And each ward in itself has a mini recovery facility where segregated waste gets further sorted, and then it gets linked to the primary MRF of the city. And every ward has a composting center of its own. So again, it's a very zero waste ward model where resources gets treated at source, especially the biodegradable resources, and the dry resources get further channelized. Up recently, the city also launched a scheme which is called Shop with Your Waste campaign, which is very unique. The residents already segregate waste. So what the municipality is urging people is that you come at grocery stores, you can get like a bag of clean dry waste. And in exchange, you can buy grocery products, or you can get coupons with which you can buy vegetables, sugar, or other daily groceries. So it's like a shop without cash campaign, but here the cash is your waste. So it's quite innovative, and this city became the first one to adopt it, and now it's being replicated across the state where this city is based, which is quite unique as an incentive scheme to promote segregation. The last city that I want to share about, again, a very interesting model, is Thiruvananthapuram. Again, a city where UN Habitat will start working on applying the Waste-Wise Cities tool. It's a coastal city with about 1 million population, and the city has 100 wards, which is divided into 25 circles, and it generates about 350 tons of waste daily. Most of it is compostable. Over 80% of the waste is compostable here, and and then of course it's dry waste and paper and plastic. The unique initiative in this city is of treatment at source. Over 40% of households in Thiruvananthapuram segregate at source and treat their wet waste at source, which means that, as you can see, this woman is using a pipe composter to treat her wet waste at source. So over 40% of the households in this city treat their wet waste in their households. And there was a youth subsidy campaign that was launched by the municipality a few years ago, wherein householders could buy a composter or a biogas plant or an aerobic bin, whatever they wanted to treat their wet waste at very, very nominal cost, which is about 50 to 70% subsidy, depending upon the mode of operation or technology they want to treat their wet waste. The dry waste sort of further gets channelized for recycling in various MRFs that are located in each ward within the city. So as you can see that, over 67% of the city follows decentralized waste management. And this is the kind of infrastructure that the city has invested in to treat various, its wet waste sources and its dry waste sources. And wherever households are not able to manage their waste at source, maybe due to lack of space or lack of capital to invest into treatment technologies, they have to pay a user fee to get a municipal collection. So it's like either you manage your waste at source and you don't pay a user fee, which is an incentive for the household. And if you can't manage it at source, you hand it over in a segregated fashion to the municipality. But for that, you'll have to give a user fee, which is sort of a disincentive. So I feel that the city has adopted unique initiatives when it comes to waste management. And again, this is sort of a pioneer city on zero waste management on the country. Some of the impacts that all these case studies have led to, one is that most of these cities are spearheading the work on circular economy in India by integrating informal sector, creating incentive schemes, and also helping in policy changes. I have to highlight the fact that informal sector is the backbone of Indian waste management system, and I'm sure it's critical to many countries that are participating in this conference. I mean, we can't talk about circular economy or going zero waste without addressing informal sector or without incentivizing informal sector. And all these models actually propagate on incentivizing informal sector or integrating them for the important role that they play for waste management in our countries. And these models have also been widely replicated to a smaller scale or a larger scale in various cities across the country. And as I said, they've led to significant policy changes on source segregation, addressing informalities, and on decentralized waste management and processing in the country. So thank you. I think that would be my bit. Over to Emily, over to...
It's okay.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Yeah, over to you.
I'll give it to Eli, and I'll just pass it on. Thanks, Swati, for the examples from India on zero waste wards. And now we're going over to Lebanon, to my colleague Eli, who will discuss reverse vending machines. Let's see what he has to say.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for this exciting conference today. I'm Eli Mansour from UN Habitat Lebanon office. I'm the head of planning and design unit, and I'm happy to share with you our experience with the reverse vending machines in Lebanon. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Eli, we can see it, but it's not in full screen mode yet. We just see the normal PowerPoint, not presentation mode.
And now?
Now it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Basically, the story of reverse vending machines started in 2019. And after the Waste-Wise cities declared the first challenge for global cities, where Lebanon office also applied for this challenge, and we were classified amongst the first 4 initiatives in the world. I will talk about it now and during the course of the presentation. Mainly, just a bit of background of solid waste in Lebanon. The population, Lebanon is a very small country. It's at 10,000 square kilometers. We have around 5.6 million inhabitants plus 1.5 million refugees, where 89% of people live in the urban context. So it's a highly urbanized country. Daily generation of solid waste is around 8,200 tons. The average generation per capita is around 1 kilogram per capita, depending between rural and urban. The composition of waste is mostly more than the half is organic, while the rest are paper, plastic, metals, and glass. According to the pie chart you're seeing, paper 16, plastic 12, metal 6, and glass 4. The remaining are others. Regarding the solid waste management in Lebanon, unfortunately, according to the Ministry of Environment, we only have 8% of our waste that is recycled. 15% is composted to a certain extent, while the rest are either landfill or disposed in open dumps. We have 941 open dump sites in Lebanon, and that resulted from sequential crisis of solid waste in Lebanon since 1990s, and led to a huge crisis in 2015. I would show you a picture afterwards of what I was talking about, something that was shared over the news. And not to mention that lately in August 2020, we had this big Beirut port explosion that have also affected and destroyed 2 major recycling and composting facilities next to the port. So the possibility or the capacity of recycling and composting was reduced also to the half. Just before we go to these are the pictures. I guess you all saw them on the news, the piled garbage over the streets and the river of garbage after the crisis in 2015. To return back to the reverse vending machines, UN Habitat, and since it started operations in Lebanon, we have, because in Lebanon there's no Ministry of Planning, we decided working with municipalities, the local authorities. And in Lebanon, the small country, we have around 1,100 municipalities, but few of them, like 900 of them, they have gathered themselves in union of municipalities or federations of municipalities. So we found that this is the strategic entry to work with communities through union of municipalities. We started adopting a modality called the Regional Technical Office. We created regional technical offices to assist those unions of municipalities to be able to understand everything related to basic services, to the socioeconomic needs, etc. Since 2017, we started the evidence-based information collection from different vulnerable localities in Lebanon to be able to understand more in terms of quantitatively, the needs, the challenges of the urban vulnerable context. We had several locations. We have around 500 vulnerable locations all across the country. And we were able to elaborate and to do around 30 vulnerable neighborhoods where we have profiled them. The profiles were tackling not just the governance system and the population, but also the basic services and the socioeconomic aspects. So understanding these aspects allowed us to better understand how to be able to address challenges. And here came the idea when talking about solid waste, it came the idea of the reverse vending machines, specifically in the city of Tripoli, because we had profiled 6 vulnerable neighborhoods that are at the proximity. So we found like high levels of littering in the city. Solid waste was in some areas disposed on the street. The mobile charges for phones were so high. We discovered private sector engagement in a lot of things in the cities there. And we discovered, and this is not something that's new, and it was dragging since 2019, the financial crisis that have hit the country and is still doing. Municipalities, they do not have any proper resource in terms of money and in terms of human resources to deal with basic services or innovation or anything else. This is why we decided to invest in reverse vending machines. We did an agreement. We had discussions with the Ministry of Environment, with the Ministry of Telecom, with the Union of Municipalities and the private sector to install reverse vending machines in these vulnerable localities. And when people go and like they insert their plastic bottles or glass bottles or even cans, they can redeem coupons, and then they scratch the coupon and they call it on the phone and they get mobile phone credits. So this was in October 2019. In October 2019, we had the political civil uprising and unrest. So ministry stopped working. So we decided to deviate from the phone mobile application. We decided to deviate from redeeming coupons and units and decided to go to each and every location and to discuss the redemption process with the private sector. We discovered that the private sector have already worked all across Lebanon, and specifically the alliance that we have signed with. The alliance is composed of the 3 main plastic and glass polluters in the country. Not gonna name them, not gonna do a publicity, but they produce a lot of plastic bottles and glass, and they have came along to form an alliance, and they have worked with us to identify the proper location where we can install the RVMs and make sure that the plastic, the cans, and the bottles are well collected. Previously, they didn't use the RVM. They used to collect plastics from fancy locations in Beirut or in the capital or in other locations, and they were able to do good numbers. Per se, they were able to collect around 500 tons of PET plastic and around 82 tons of cans in 1 year. which was an initiative that they have started together. And we came across to meet at the RVM point, where we decided to place the RVMs and locations next to, for example, the fisherman port in Tripoli. Fisherman who comes and places the plastic bottles, he can receive a coupon and he can go and redeem it at the fisherman shop, where he can get a fishing net or anchors or etc. Now we're in the process also of implementing additional 6 reverse vending machines, which will be implemented soon. And we agreed, we are signing now a convention or an agreement with the private sector companies to allow us to identify the vulnerable locations. They can come and take charge of their RVMs, and then at the end of the year, from the savings that they will be doing from their let me just mention something. Imagine a company like Pepsi or Coca-Cola is able to save around 30% of what they produce in terms of plastic. These savings, we agreed with the companies to do community support projects at the end of the year, specifically in public spaces, and this process has started now. And we were able to install these kind of benches, if you can see them on the right side of the picture. These are real pictures, and produced from the rejects of glass and plastic. Because you know that plastics in the world, not all the types of plastics are recovered throughout the world. So this alliance have created an innovative composite material made of glass and plastic to produce these types of material, specifically benches, planters, bins, curbstones, etc., water channels. And now by the end of this year, we will be investing more in these community support projects in more vulnerable localities to address the public space issues also in vulnerable localities in Lebanon. Our alliance with the private sector have now grown, and after the Beirut port explosion, we were able also to gather forces to deviate the generated rubble from the explosion from being landfilled directly into sanitary landfill, which are mostly saturated in Beirut and Mount Lebanon. And we are now working to do the best environmental solution for the disposal of this rubble, and we are engaged now on the ground to sort out this generated rubble. This is my presentation. I hope, yeah, I'm done now, Nelly. Please, I pass over.
Thank you, Eli, for this very nice presentation. You're getting a lot of congratulations on the benches, and I must admit they look really nice. I haven't seen them so far as well, so they do look really impressive. Thank you. And now from Lebanon, we go over to my colleague Berhanu, who is in Ethiopia, and will now look also, as Swati said, some cities can make it without landfills, but I think in a lot of cities, landfills still will be part in the future of our waste management chain. So let's have a look at how this could also look like if you have an existing dump site and what to do with it. So Berhanu, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nelly. I'm sharing my screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all, and thank you for inviting to share the experience of Ethiopia in the implementation of the Fukuoka method for a dump site rehabilitation. My name is Berhanu Skazia, National Program Officer for UN Habitat, and I'm managing the national pilot project in the implementation of the Fukuoka method in Bahar Dar city. Just to who is going to manage the slide? Okay. Just to give a quick view for the Fukuoka method, you can observe the diagram for the Fukuoka method. Of course, you all might be familiar with this method, but since we are applying this method to our project, we need to show the diagram that we're applying. So it's a semi-aerobic landfill management method. As you can see, the main components of this method is the site structure, the structure, which is called the embankment, and the leachate collection pipes, usually covered with cobblestone in order to avoid the closure of opening in the collection pipes by waste, so that there will be free circulation of air and the movement of leachate along. And there is also gas venting pipes, usually erected vertically for the entrance and circulation of oxygen. That will facilitate the aerobic functions, the decomposition of the waste by aerobic bacteria. So, and the other component is the leachate treatment or adjustment facility, which is one of the main components, and usually have the kits for treatment, the EcoFan and Tornado system. And the last one for as part of the leachate treatment is the gravel bed trench. Usually have gravel for tracking the sludge and other particulated material before the final flow of leachate into the rain ditch or surface flow of water. This is how the conventional type of the conventional open dump site works. You can see the methane, which is produced as a result of anaerobic decomposition inside the waste, will result in the production of methane, and methane is coming out to the surface, and when it comes in contact with oxygen, it creates fire and smoke. That's what we call the dump site firing and creation of smoke. And this one is the semi-aerobic type, the Fukuoka method that you can see. These are the gas venting pipes. Gas venting pipe usually made from perforated drum or any locally made material. And the function is for the entrance of oxygen and for the circulation of it inside the waste, so that aerobic bacteria can work properly and decompose waste more faster than the anaerobic system. Then the result will be the production of carbon dioxide instead of methane. Methane is a more potent gas in greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And this is how the system works in the Fukuoka method. Then coming to the project, this project is, as I told you, it's a national pilot project. It's the first of its kind in Ethiopia. It is brought by the Ministry of Urban Development and Construction for the first time. And those supporters are from SWAN, the Solid Waste Advisory Network situated in Japan. Then the objective is it supports the city to establish a sustainable and environmentally safe waste management system using this Fukuoka method. Of course, there are different components within it. Not only the construction of the dump site with the Fukuoka method, but there will be also capacity building, solid waste management capacity and efficiency for Bahar Dar city for the proper functioning of the project. And the final result is establishing a system for a sustainable and environmentally safe waste management system for the city. And the major activities are site survey and design, usually associated with this method are site survey and design and site clearance, there will be. And because the area is covered with old waste, that old waste should be cleared. And the cleared surface should be leveled and compacted in order to avoid the seepage of leachate into the underground water. And there will be embankment. The embankment is the area, the project area is surrounded by the embankment with entrance for trucks, waste trucks, and also machineries, bulldozer and excavator. And the other component is the leachate collection pipe. That will be installed inside the project for the collection of leachate and also for the circulation of air into the waste. The other is gas venting pipe. This is a vertical structure. The main purpose is the circulation, the entrance of oxygen and circulation into the waste. This is a vertical, while the leachate collection pipe is a horizontal structure. And then the other is the leachate treatment pond. So the leachate collected from the waste, the dump area, is collected in a treatment pond and treated using Ecofan and Tornado and other treatment facilities. And then the gravel bed trench is constructed next to the leachate treatment pond, and that is a final treatment facility and usually filled with gravel. And the other is an installation of Ecofan and Tornado on the treatment pond. And operational training is an important component, because without operational training, then the project cannot function properly. So there will be that. And finally, there will be solid waste management strategy development for the city in order to have a holistic waste management system as part of the project. This is a location. Bahar Dar is the location of this project. It's the capital of the Amhara region, and located around 550 kilometers northwest of Addis Ababa. Bahar Dar is known for its magnificent location adjacent to the Lake Tana, the largest lake in Ethiopia, and also the source of Blue Nile, the longest river in the world. So waste management is really critical in order to save this major water source from contamination. And here is a diagrammatic view of the project. And this one is the final design that will be put into the ground. And here is the dumping area before intervention during the rainy season. And this is also the dumping area during the dry season. And as machines are clearing the site, and after site clearance and compaction, there will be a site marking for embankment and for the construction work. And then once the marks are put, then the embankment work is started, as you can see. And the embankment work is under progress, and in more progress for the embankment work. And here, the embankment work is finalized, and the installation of leachate collection pipe is started, as you can see. And here is the leachate collection pipe, one of the main leachate collection pipe, where two pipes are running together, are covered with cobblestone. As I told you, the by covering with cobblestone, we can protect the openings of in the pipes. I think it's safe for free circulation of air, or otherwise the waste will come in contact and close the openings. That is why we use the cobblestone as a cover for the leachate collection pipes. There is also the installed leachate collection pipes, and the leachate pipes are already covered with cobblestone, and these are gas venting pipes. You see gas venting pipes, two gas venting pipes are seen here for the entrance of oxygen and for the circulation of it inside the waste. Here is the main leachate collection pipe and the branches in the model site. Then once the model site, the leachate collection pipes are installed, then these leachate collection pipes are guided into the leachate treatment pond. As you can see, the parallel leachate collection pipes are guided and connected to the leachate treatment pond. Here is the construction of the leachate treatment pond under progress, where we used the earth block, of course, a brick for the construction of the leachate treatment pond. And here is the final look of the leachate treatment pond. The wooden bridges are installed or put in place on the leachate pond are for the installation of the Ecofan. And then at the middle of these wooden bridges, then the Ecofan will be installed, so that Ecofan will function or operate to treat the leachate that will be collected in the leachate treatment pond. This is another look for the leachate pond. And here is the connection point at the leachate treatment point is connected to the gravel bed trench. As I told you before, the gravel bed trench is used as a final treatment facility for a leachate and covered with, filled with gravel. This gravel, then the leachate is flow through this gravel so that sludge and other solid particulates will be trapped here as a final treatment facility. And finally, the leachate, the treated leachate will be guided into the rain ditch or into the water body, because the leachate will be safe after this time with many stages of treatment. Then the beneficiaries, there are different parties to benefit from this project. The first one is the nearby community, who suffered a lot from a poorly managed open dumping. Of course, it's as you can see during the dry season, there is always fire and smoking, and the people are living around there and are affected seriously. So once this project become operational, no fire and no even haphazard flow of leachate into the nearby water body, so that the community, the nearby community, will benefit a lot from this project. And also, of course, the residents of Baharda, around 500,000 people are living in Baharda. So this the dump site is serving for the whole community in Baharda, so that they are also beneficiaries. It also benefit for other cities because it is the first of its kind in Ethiopia. It's a pilot, a national pilot project, as I told you, so that if it becomes successful, then this project will be replicated in other cities, not only in Ethiopia, but also in countries outside of Ethiopia. Because it will become functional. By the way, more than 90% of this project is now completed. Then it will be inaugurated within a month's time. That is our plan, so that it will become functional after operational training. So it will be the source of or center of experience sharing for the cities in Ethiopia and also in abroad. The other is what are the, yes, please.
In interest of time, I think maybe we cut it. We stop at this point, and maybe you can explain the rest in the breakout group, because I want to give us time to look at the breakout groups. Is that okay with you?
Guys, okay, but now I am finalizing, of course.
Okay.
If you have 2 or 3 minutes, then anyway,
one, you get one.
Okay. So this is the expected outputs, and then you can see then for this is, by the way, this one is a critical. If you share the PPT to participants, then they can get it from there, and this will be key for the successful operation of the Fukuoka metered landfill system. So there is here, and it is Baharda, the beauty of Baharda. And then thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Nele.
Thank you, Berhanu, and thank you for this very interesting presentation, and congratulations on almost being finished with the project. We're looking forward to the inauguration. And now the idea is that all of us, that everyone will get the chance to select one of the topics that were presented. So it's the Waste-Wise Cities tool, the zero waste wards, the reverse vending machines, and the Fukuoka method. And that we can do now small breakout groups to discuss a bit more in depth about them. So I'm asking now the support to let everyone choose which breakout group to proceed to. And the idea is that we will meet, let's say now in 25 minutes. So in 20 after 12, I think it's for you, in back in the big group to do like a final discussion round together before we conclude.
Nele, just a quick check. So rooms are assigned to us, right? Or do I just automatically pick room 2?
Yeah. So I actually don't see where I can choose those rooms.
Yes.
The rooms should be opened. So on the right side, normally you find the rooms. And
So there are 4 rooms, but is there anything assigned specifically to me, Nelly?
I will take one. Swati will. Okay, so me and the Wastewater Cities tool will be in room 1. Swati and the Zero Waste Works will be in room 2. Eli will be in with the reverse vending machines in room 3, and Bahanu will go to room 4 with the Fukuoka method. Sorry for the confusion on that, and I will try to find out how I can join that one.
I will shortly explain. Please click in the panel to the breakout room, and then you can select your room and then click join. It's simple. Some of the people are joining meanwhile. Yes. In case of the time changing, 12:30, the session must be over. Yeah. We must be in time. Okay.
That's okay. Just at 20 after take us out of the breakout rooms. Sorry, I still cannot join it. I just don't see the breakout rooms.
You have no panel or steering panel of the Zoom? Also your Zoom panel?
Yeah, there's security, participants, chat, share screen, pause, recording, reactions.
No breakout room. Then maybe
No.
in the area.
Can you assign me to breakout room 1?
Okay, I will do. I hope it works. Yes.
Thank you. Sorry. Maybe I have an old Zoom version and I need to update it, and that's also why I wasn't able to share.
Should be.
And also Eli would need help to be assigned to room 3, and some people say they cannot see the rooms anymore. I don't know if that's...
Okay,
Yeah.
Hello.
Our breakout room just ended.
Yeah, same here.
Because it was set for 1 minute.
So, okay, then restart and joining must be possible.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. I think they are going to be visible in in a few seconds.
Why there is a countdown? Yes, I don't know why the countdown is there.
Probably someone's clicking it. Closing room.
Holger, it's again for 1 minute only.
Yeah, I see, but I can't switch the countdown. That's the problem. So we close again. We still wait till the moment this room is closing, and then I can restart the breakout session, and then.
Okay, while we're waiting everyone for that, I hope you're still with us and you will join us in the breakout rooms. And in meanwhile, I'll make an announcement, which I do right now. We are going to have the global launch of the Wastewater Cities tool next week. I will post it in the chat. There's a link so everyone can join next week and have a look at this website. There you go.
Meanwhile, sun is shining in Estonia. This is a big news.
Okay, now the rooms are still open without countdown, I hope. Please join the room.
Great. Can you still, Holger, could you please assign me to the room? I still don't see it.
I will check.
Can you assign me to the room as well?
Yeah. You also not see the room?
It just disappeared. It was just once on the screen, but then it disappeared again.
Why is this?
Hello. Group 1, room 1 with the partner.
It was again just for a sec.
In the meanwhile, are there any questions while we're waiting? Maybe someone has a question from the audience, please. So we can use the time while we're waiting to be eager to chat. Does anyone have a question on the presentations you just heard? I don't know if you can, I think you can all unmute yourselves. So please just do that. Or raise your hand or do whatever you want so we can see you. And
I have a question to Swati. So you talked about that you have a fee for collecting waste. So is it possible that some households don't have enough income to pay this fee, and this waste will be dumped somewhere?
Thanks, Annalie, for the question. This is a very nominal fee. It's less than $1 usually. And most of the householders that it's collected from in India is like, these are proper authorized colonies. There is no system of user fee collection from unauthorized or informal colonies because they cannot afford it for sure. So these are majorly gated colonies or formal authorized, housing societies where user fee collection happens. Yeah.
Thank you. And I have a second question as well. So about the composting. So we have such a positive problem in Estonia. People are composting, but they don't know where to put the ready compost, especially if they are living in the city. So what is your advice or experience in India, where the households use the compost, ready compost?
Since composting is majorly pushed in the country, more so because 50 to 70% of our waste, you saw that the composition of wet waste in India is quite high as compared to Western countries. But in order to incentivize composting, there are a few schemes. One is that there is a compost pickup. For instance, if you have some excess compost, basically there is a pickup facilitated by a voluntary organization or a CBO or an NGO or the municipality itself, and they pay you for the compost that you make. It's not a lot of money. It could be, say, less than 20-30 cents or so, but then it is some money for a householder to compost and give it at a very nominal cost. So yeah, I mean that's how it works, but not everywhere. But in India, I mean, as a society, most of us do keep pots, and there's always something that is growing in the house and it's utilized. But yeah, there are such incentive schemes where you can. There's also a scheme wherein you get grocery coupons. So you can go to a milk booth with the compost that you sold to a center, and you can get some 10 to 20 rupees of discount on the milk that you buy. So some sort of grocery related incentive schemes as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, this is Lucy from Practical Action. Thank you for the presentation, Swati. I really enjoyed yours. We've been applying the Waste-Wise Cities tool more or less in a study in Odisha, in a town there. I'd love for our team to be able to connect with you on that. I had a question about the composting. In work that we've done in a number of countries, for sale of compost to farmers, it needs to be certified and licensed. And I wondered if that is an issue in India or not. And maybe it's the same, maybe also other countries can comment on that. I don't know whether in other countries, like in Ethiopia or others that are selling compost, you also have an issue of licensing, which can be quite a hurdle for the sale of the compost. Thank you.
I mean, Lucy, just correct me if I'm answering your question right, but we have norms in the country which have to be complied to regarding the quality of compost, and if you are like a large scale seller, you need to get an authorization by your local municipal department or your local agricultural department. If you're looking into selling compost for business purposes, so is it sort of an agency that is selling compost as a fertilizer to farmers? So they need to have proper authorizations. Also at commercial scale, compost has to be authorized by, we have something called the fertilizer norms, and which sort of talk about the quality of compost and the standards of compost. So if you are a compost seller, every bi-month you have to sort of get your compost tested. And when you sell it, the back packet of your compost needs to have all that data, that this particular compost sort of complies to all those standards. Without that in place, you can't commercially sell your compost, and without the authorization from agricultural department, you can't sell it to horticultural or agricultural departments. So I hope I was able to answer, but if it's happening at a very small scale, say a colony level or a small residential colony where everyone is composting and say they're using it in a public park, then probably there is no such authorization required. But only if you're selling this to farmers who are growing crops, it is a must. I hope that's the information you wanted.
Yes, thank you.
Excuse me?
I suppose I wondered if that has been a barrier at all, because it's quite difficult to, sometimes it's difficult to get things done and costly. And
okay. As a country, we've been doing this since years. So compost is not rocket science, being an economy that's very much farming oriented. Composting is something which many agricultural farmers depend on and a lot of crop businesses depend on. So the authorization and the licensing procedures are very decentralized, and it's not a lot of hassle in the country. Yeah, not with composting at least.
Excuse me, Ms. Swati, could you tell us about your vending machines of milk in India? Because it's in Europe, it's not so much known. We have it only in some parts in the countryside, and it's they are selling it as new invention in Austria.
Sorry, before we answer that question, just one question to the support. Is there still a chance to go in the breakout rooms or not? Because otherwise we'll just continue.
Yeah, this is the question now. Because
my question is Savati.
And sorry. Yeah, you can only do it automatically, and so
okay.
Want to do it or
no? Then we will just continue with the question round. Thank you.
My question is.
Abdul, 1 second. I think
Swati
wants to take up the question first from Stella, and then it's your chance. Okay, Abdul?
Thanks, Nelly. Stella, we do have reverse vending machines in India for milk. It's been there for long. Also, it's also there to, sort of encourage people to not use single-use plastics and get their own containers to get the milk filled from. If you want some pictures regarding that, I'll be more than happy to share how it looks like. But this has been there for years and decades. At least I'm seeing it in all these cities in the country. I won't say it's there in rural India, but in most of cities, at least 90% of them, we have these vending machines where you can just go and get milk from without, buying milk in those packets. So I feel it's a great incentive to avoid, single-use packaging. And typically milk from these booths is more cheaper than the packaged milk. Yeah. I hope I was able to answer you.
Thanks.
Great. Any other questions? Also to maybe some of my other colleagues? Swati is being swamped, which is great. Abdul, yes, please.
My name is Abdul Banglani from the Sindh, Pakistan. My question from Savati about the organic composites. So we are established in the IRC, Integrated Resource Recovery Centers in different municipals. So we are processing to organic waste and convert to the organic composites. So we are facing to now the business point of to composite marketing. And my question to Savati is how you marketing, how you sell your organic composites in India.
Thanks, Abdulji, for your question. There's no one fit for all model for marketing compost. Even in India, different municipalities and different NGOs do it differently, and I'm sure it's across global south that it goes. One way of doing is that municipality takes the entire ownership, which means that you produce compost in various centralized or decentralized centers, and you create like a and you get that compost sort of trademarked under the municipality, and you open a center and you sort of link it up to farmers and sell it. So that's like a very municipality oriented model. Second is that you could look into creating small decentralized centers, which probably a NGO or a self-help group owns, and they are primarily responsible for selling compost. In most of our countries, I mean, it can be utilized into farming or for agricultural or various, horticultural purposes, or even a lot of city parks require compost. So, the NGOs or SAGs that are working on it can be sort of linked. And another way would be what I shared, I don't know who, I almost forgot who I shared it with, but other way is that you sort of provide it to households who need compost at a very nominal cost, that could be done by a municipality or a local scale NGO to sell it to, various householders who wants to buy city compost. So, I mean, there's no one way to do it. It could be utilized within the colony itself, and you can look into selling it for agricultural purposes or horticultural purposes. Or you could have a direct linkage with farmers where, it's entirely produced and channelized. And I'm sure with India and Pakistan, the situation is almost the same of where it can go to. Yeah.
Same. We are providing to the gardens and the parks and other agriculture purpose, different the farmers. So, but before, so we are trying in the UNESCAPE, the collaboration with the UNESCAPE. So we are established the IRC center for the circular improve the circular economy. So inshallah, improve organic qualities and convert to the organic composite. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? We still have some time.
Hi, I have a question, but I don't know to whom. Yeah. So, you know that the world is living in really highly urbanization, right? A lot of population is living in the cities. There are a lot of this kind of communities who are living in slums and favelas and so on. I think it's really huge problem in the world. Especially people in those areas, but also in highly intensive rural areas, it's really hard to start with segregations or work on the composting because of different kind of reasons. What is the UN Habitat's kind of activities, really clear way and how to address this kind of questions, especially in highly urban areas and also in this kind of slums? And I think it's like a 30% of all their cities. It's quite a big number of population who is living in this way. Thank you.
Sure, maybe I'll start and then maybe my colleagues can jump in if they have anything to add. So I think what we really push is to work with the people on the ground, because in many informal settlements, there is already some form of waste collection. Oftentimes you have like what we call community-based organizations or waste pickers that are active. And so I think one very important part is to approach these people, to include them, to recognize their work, to formalize their work, to kind of get them in contact with the local government to find a solution that works for all, and then see how the local government can support the collection already happening, but also put it into a like more formalized way. So this is also something we will start, hopefully, if with a project, for example, in Kenya, where we also look at collection actually in low-income areas. And the idea is really to do it kind of bottom up and empower the people in the communities who are already working, but making it safer for them, and also to raise awareness on the issue and so forth. I don't know if Swati, Lee, or Bahanu wants to comment on that or add something maybe from their country perspective.
No, I think, Nelly, I agree with you. The way to do is bottom-up scaling. With most of our countries, as I said, the informalities are critical. So the only way to do it is, collaborate and work together, educate, create awareness, social engineering, which is really important around all waste-related projects, and then sort of use those learnings to, say, change policy or bring better reforms. So yeah, absolutely agree with Nelly on this.
Hi again. Talking about the Lebanon experience, as you colleagues have mentioned, it's not just one item to be taken into consideration. It's an integrated way of seeing things. If policies are there, there's commitment from local authorities or from the authorities, and there's engagement from the people. You will find this integrated loop that will save and serve the urban context from distresses related to solid waste. And our experience in the country office, we have lack of integrated solid waste management policies. And what we are doing now with the private sector, or even with the grassroots organization, is to look into initiatives and to pilot them. Like what we are doing now with the plastics, the cans, and the bottles will inform policies after 6 months. We are in deep investigations with the ministries to put all these policies into laws and decrees so that they will be applicable. In one of the examples that we have witnessed in one of the cities where we have intervened, is that there was no awareness about sorting and doing sorting from source. So awareness was one of the issues that have helped the city from turning into 98% burning their waste into 98% recovering their waste. And this is an example that we're so happy sharing it with the team, with the group here. Last thing, I guess what is the Wastewise City is offering from understanding the solid waste management of the city, of understanding the generated waste, the composition of waste would allow us also to sort out solutions. And what we did in Lebanon, when we profile a city or when we profile a neighborhood, is that we understand these compositions and then we act accordingly. We see where are the grassroots or the NGOs working in sorting. We see the private sector, how is it engaging? And we try to leverage all these experiences in order to serve the purpose of sorting and providing better services in terms of solid waste. Thank you.
Thank you. So quite a lot of work, of course, and I think it's, as you say, that it's a question about integration of different kind of parts of the society, and definitely Let's Do It Well can be helping here to work on this really great purpose. Thank you.
Definitely, Heidi, and I think I mean, what you'd have with your country teams, I mean, you already have a starting point, right? You have teams, you have very, very engaged people who want to change something. I think that's the first thing you always need, people who are willing to change something and who are able to kind of maybe create awareness within their community. And I mean, that's why cleanups, of course, are a very good starting point as well, right? And I mean, as we have already discussed together, I think then it's just a matter of finding the next steps of how to continue it. And if you already have these networks, which are working great, as we can see, always the cleanup day is always a success. And then I think it's just also a way of connecting it with, as I say, because I mean, what I always think is really important to not just try. Of course, it's important you do it by yourself, but you kind of at least try to get the local government on board somehow to get it like a bit formalized, because otherwise it's very hard sometimes if you have like a for some people like to get the system really big and to get it running and also to get it acknowledged. So that's why I think it's really important that you bring all stakeholders to the table, that you have, of course, the engagement, but you also try to bring in the local government, which of course maybe sometimes is not so willing or just doesn't have the resources. But I think oftentimes they're even more willing to do it as a lot of people might even think. So I think that's why what is really also important.
Absolutely, yes. And we are working on awareness and also engagement. And I think to bring our local municipalities, we are working also during the work cleanup day is absolutely must here. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. And I think maybe as we already probably discussed it yesterday in the keynote session, but I mean, I think there's Ethiopia probably also a good example where this connection is like, as far as I know, Berhanu, please correct me, but where this is kind of starting, right? Where you kind of have the possibility to connect the well cleanup also to the local governments and the officials. Great. Are there any other questions? We could take probably one more question before we need to close.
Excuse me, I wanted to ask you. We do have in Austria a collection for bottle caps because the PP is better material, and then per ton it can be collected. And then it goes to a recycler, and the recycler gives then for children 230 euros for their therapy. So I wanted to know if bottle caps are in your countries also collected. I don't know to whom
Maybe all of them can say something.
Yeah.
Swati, please start, and then Ili, and then Berhanu.
Yes, Stella. I mean, everything that is recyclable and has value gets collected in India. So bottle caps definitely are recyclable and get collected and get recycled, and then further sort of a material or bucket or a comb or something gets made out of it. So yeah, I mean, in fact, informal workers who work in the country, I mean, there is sorting of plastics that goes up to 80 to 100 different fractions across the country in all cities. So anything that is recyclable under the sun will get picked up without any doubt. Yeah.
Yep. From Ethiopia, yeah, there is the experience of collecting plastic waste. Of course, there are not many institutions engaged in the collection of plastic waste, but in Addis, especially when the recycling facilities are available, there is a collection of plastic waste. But in other cities, including Bahar Dar, the collection is not that much visible. Of course, there are some startings in Bahar Dar. Only one MSE, or a micro and a small enterprise, is trying its best to collect plastic waste, but the transportation cost and the shortage of machineries for the compaction and crushing all are bottlenecks to fully engage in the collection of plastic waste. But it's limited in Addis only, and some cities that are closer to Addis, so that transportation is easier for the transportation of raw plastic bottle into the processing unit in Addis. So it's not that much wide. So still it lags.
Thank you. It's Eli back. Well, I'm gonna take it from this perspective. The needs creates opportunities. In Lebanon, we have consecutive wars, and wars have like generated many people with disabilities in the country. There was a local NGO in Lebanon that was collecting and still collecting caps to create handicap chairs for people with disabilities. And this initiative is still ongoing. And I guess the chair's cost is around $200 throughout the caps. The other thing is that we have the highest microplastic contamination for the Mediterranean Sea throughout the whole coast of the Mediterranean Sea. So there was also an initiative to take plastic, not just the PP, also PET and other types, even the rejects of plastics that do not find any economic transition or any economic treatment. They are taken now and they are mixed with glass into the ratio of 3:1, so that they can create the rejects of glass and plastic. It's a material that they can create with it benches, planters, bus stations, curbstones for the sidewalks, everything. So they are transforming the waste to wealth in its real sense. So the idea is, whenever you have need, you know it, you can create opportunity.
That's a very nice, that's almost like last words, Eli. So those are very nice. Thank you. Looking at the time, I would say we stop the discussion here. Thank you all for joining our workshop. Thank you, Heidi, Annelie, the whole team for inviting us to hold this. I'm sorry we didn't get to have the discussions in the smaller groups. I think we would have all really enjoyed it. But feel free to drop us a line. Maybe I'll just write our Wastewise Cities email address in the chat, and I will make sure that if you have still questions or want to follow up with colleagues, I will forward it, or my team and we will forward it to the colleagues who were on the call. And as I said again, we really would like to invite you next week for the global launch of the Wastewise Cities tool. Make sure to join. Thank you, Swati, Eli, and Bahanu, for sharing the experiences from your countries and on the different aspects. And is there anything else I need to say before we stop? I don't think so. And I think the time is also over anyway. So thank you all, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Nela, and all you and Habitat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liam.
Okay, everyone. Bye. Good job.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.